create, update, and task tests. So I'm going to steal this create user story and then edit it for task. So instead of user story here, we're going to put task, and then it should create a task within the specified project and feature, within the specified project and feature, and user story, and return the updated project. All right, let's go ahead and make sure that that is in fact what it does. Create tasks. Yep, and then get project by ID. Perfect. Okay. So then let's take a look. It looks like we're going to be passing in a task DTO, which will have one additional field, which is going to be user story ID, and then we'll make that one. All right, and instead of this being user story DTO, we're going to say task DTO, and then here we will say task DTO. All right, and save. All right, so the name of the task, and we don't have a description, thank you TypeScript. The name of the task will just be task 1. And then we also have a request, so that looks good. And then here is the project that will come back. So we'll have project 1, feature 1, user story 1. All right, now we're gonna have a task count be 1, and let's add the task. So it'll be name task 1, and then status to do. Perfect. All right, so now we have our project. All right, so we're gonna say service, create, and I'm gonna change all of these. Let's just highlight create user story so I can just change. And then we're gonna change this to create task. All right, so yeah, we're gonna mock the resolve value that comes from service.create task, and we want that to be project. Then we actually wanna call create the controller create task, and we're gonna pass in the task DTO and the request. We expect the result to be project. We expect service create task to have been called, and we expect it to have been called with, and then I'm going to change this to task. We don't have a description. Get rid of that. And then here we do have task. And then we have one more where we have task DTO dot user story ID, and save. All right, let's go ahead and run this test and see how we did. Perfect. All right, so now we can go ahead and move on to update tasks. So I'm gonna minimize this and move on. All right, I am going to copy the update user story and paste it in there. And then we will edit it to make it make sense for task. So update task, okay. It looks like it's still going to take a fields on a task, which would either be for task, name, or status, and return, let's see if it's gonna return the updated project with statuses. And no, it will not. I'm also curious if update user story, update user story does do project ID. Okay, so update task does work a little bit differently. So updated task is going to return the story status and the task list. So we can go ahead and get rid of this, all right? But I am going to, nope, because we don't even have the task list. Okay, so then we'll say const return object is going to be an object with the story status. And let's see what the story status looks like. Okay, so that's going to be the string, right? So we're going to say story status is going to be equal to a string, completed task length out of task count. Let's do that. And then we're going to have the next thing that we'll have is update task. I've lost myself. All right. Return this user story service get story user story status by ID. So is that just what we're getting? Where did I get? So update task. Nope, I am doing that. Okay, so story status and then task list, which is going to be an array, and then it's 1 out of 1 because we still only have name is going to be task 1, and then status. Let's make status in the field that we edit, and we'll make it in. Oh, well, we should make it done to make it 1 out of 1. Done. All right. So the field that we're editing here is going to be status, and the value that we're going to be changing it to is going to be done. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. This is going to be update task DTO, and then we're going to have here update task DTO. Let's go look at what update task DTO involves. So we'll go to the definition for that type, and we have field value and then task ID. All right, perfect. So now we can go ahead and mock update task, and the resolve value that we want to come out of it is going to be this return object. Name return object is that not what it's supposed to be? Is not because it's string or promise string. All right, let's trace it one more time. Update task. So let me just do promise any. Is that how we're supposed to do it? All right, and now it's not mad. Okay, perfect. All right, so then our result is we're going to be calling the controller.update task, and we will pass in the update task DTO and the request, and we expect that that result is going to be equal to the return object, and we expect that service.update, let's just change this then, update task to have been called and to have been called with, and then let's go look. So it's going to be update task DTO dot field dot value and then dot task ID. All right, let's run the test and see how we do. Perfect. All right. So now we have one more for our task workflow, and that is going to be delete task. So let's take a look. Looks like we are just passing in the task ID that we want to delete, making sure, and then we're returning the user story status and task list. Okay, so then that is going to be, nope, that's from create task. So I'm going to copy this return object in a second, but let's go ahead and copy this delete user story. And let's put it here. And we are going to change this to delete task. Should delete a task. and then update task is not, sorry, and should return the updated user story status and task list, okay? And should return and then we're gonna copy this because it should return the same thing. Perfect. All right, so instead of projects with statuses, we can go ahead and get rid of that. And then we will take this return object instead. And go ahead like that. And then this actually is now going to be 0 out of 0 because we're pretending that we're deleting this task. So that's going to be the return object. And we are going to be passing in a task ID 1. All right, perfect. So let's highlight delete user story, and everywhere we have that function being used, we're going to replace it with delete task. Now, we're mocking the resolved value of the service delete task function, and it should be the return object. And then we will go ahead and call the controller delete task function with the task ID and the request, and we'll store that result in the result variable. We expect that result variable to equal return object. We expect the service delete task method to be called, and we expect it to be called with the task ID and the user ID, which is request.user.sub. All right, let's give it a try. And woohoo, we passed. All right, so let's go back to our controller and we can minimize delete task. All right. So we are going to do the send password reset email later in another video because we haven't tested the mail service or the auth service method for this yet. So we'll do all of that in one video. And we can go ahead and move on to save new password and delete user. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go save new password, and let's figure out what this should do. So it's gonna take in a new password DTO. Let's go ahead and look at that. New password, ID, and token, okay? And then it's going to pass all that to the auth service. It's going to get the user from the ID. So, okay, the ID is user ID. And then we are going to try to decode it. All right. If it does, we'll return email, username, and password. Otherwise, we'll do the exception. So we already tested that this function works with the throwing the exception or returning the email, username, password. So we don't have to do that again here. We just have to test, like, is it calling the save new password field? So it should save the new password. Let's do should update the user password and return the user email, name, and username. All right, let's write the test for it now. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is what is being passed into this test, which is going to be const body, and that is going to be an object, and as type new password DTO, and we are going to have a new password, which is going to be equal to new password, and we are going to have an ID, which is going to be equal to 15, because that's the kind of user ID we're always using, and then we're going to have a token, which is going to be fake token. All right. Okay, so new password string, ID string. Oh, so it's mad because I made 15 a, there you go. All right, the next thing that we're gonna do is the return. So the return is going to be updated user, and that is going to be email, which is gonna be still calliestoscup@gmail.com. And then it's going to be name, Callie Stoscup, and then it'll be username, C Stoscup. All right. Now let's go ahead and do our mock. So we're going to be mocking the service dot save new password and then we're going to mock the resolved value, and that should be updated user. Then we can actually call the controller function. So we're going to say const result is equal to controller dot save new password, and then we will pass in the body. All right. Nope. Now we can say that we expect that the result is going to equal updated user. All right, let's go ahead and run the test and see how we did. Perfect, we passed. All right, so we can also say that we expect service.save new password to have been called, and we expect service.save new password to have been called with body.new password, body.id, and body.token. All right, let's run this test suite again and see how we did. Perfect. All right, so that is going to be testing our save new password. And then now we have one more, which is going to be deleting our user. So it delete user, and then let's go figure out what this should do. So it's going to call the auth service, and it's going to delete the user, and it looks like it's just going to send back the delete result. Okay, so we should say should delete the user and return the delete result. Async. Alright, so we are going to have const rec is going to be equal to a user object with a sub property, and that sub property is going to be 15. Then we're going to have a delete result here, and I am going to go ahead and look at my auth service spec, and I already have one right here, so I'm going to copy it and let's paste it. All right. Then we're going to say that we are calling the service.delete user function, and we are going to mock the resolved value, and we're going to mock it's going to be delete result. Okay, so now we can call const result is equal to controller dot delete user, and we'll pass in the, and then let's add the await before we forget, and we'll pass in the rec. All right, now we expect that the result is going to equal the delete result. All right, let's go ahead and run that. Perfect. All right, let's keep going. So we expect that the service.delete user to have been called, and we expect the service.delete user to have been called with rec.user.sub. All right, let's rerun the tests. Perfect. All right, so we are done with that one now. And when we come back, we will handle the mail service and all of that line of functions. See you in the next one.